Hi, and welcome back to Biblical Theology, Exegesis, and Hermeneutics, where meaning is always context-driven. I'm your host, John Strazicich, and we will be continuing on here in our study in the book of Amos. Okay, so we find ourselves here in Divrei Amos. That is the title of this book, The Words of Amos. And this is an exegetical study in the prophecy, poetry, and politics of the prophet Amos. Okay, and coming into this slide, we will be looking at our scansion here for our text today, which is going to cover the oracle against Tyre and the oracle against Edom and the sons of Ammon, and then finally Moab. And so this frame here that we're looking at is follows the work of John Hobbins, and he's a very influential Old Testament exegete, and I am following his model here. Now I may not be following it perfectly in the form of in this particular column, but I think for the audience, my audience here, we're just going to leave it like this. But Kav here stands for the line, and then the Samic here is just going to stand for strophe, and then when we have Al Shalosh Pishe Damasek, then this is the title of the poem, which is taken from the from 1-3, from the very beginning words. So it would be Al Shalosh Pishe Damasek. And then we have the book, and we have the chapter, and since we're going into chapter 2, we're going to have chapter 2 in here as well. And then Defos Metri here refers then to the metrical pattern, and we could see here that this is a monocolon, so it would be a 3-0 because we have 3 prosodic words here. And then the next one is a distic because it's divided into halves here, and it's a 3-3, and that's because we have 3 prosodic words on each side of the caesura. And then finally here for pasuk here, the pay here is just going to refer to the verse, and so I delineated that there. And this is a very good frame here that Dr. Hobbins here has set up that I will happily follow. And I just wanted, we're just introducing this here for the first time, and I think it really does help and assist in being able to then to analyze the text in this particular manner. So anyhow, I just wanted to introduce you to to the new way of looking at a poetic text and analyzing it according to its scansion. Okay, then jumping into our text here, we find ourselves down here in verse 9, and I think now safely looking at the macro structure here of the oracles against the nations, the OAN, and we're looking at Jehovah's irrevocable judgments. And these are these 8 judgments, beginning in 1-3 that go all the way to 2:16. And I have basically essentially divided up these 8 nations here into 3 groups. And the first group, the oracles against the western city-state nations. And we've seen here that why I have titled it in this way is because they are on the west, and that they're all referred to by the city-state names, such as the oracle against Damascus, which is really the oracle against the Arameans. And then we went to the oracle against Gaza, which was really an oracle against the Philistines. And then today we're on the oracle against Tyre here, and this is really an oracle against the Phoenicians. And then the B group then here is the oracles against the Jordanian nations, and these would be the oracle against Edom, Ammon, and Moab. And these can also be understood as, that Edom is actually the eldest son of Isaac. So Jacob and Esau were brothers, and Edom is just the country name for Esau, and and then we know that through Abraham and Lot, Abraham's nephew, that Ammon, that the eldest daughter, she her child was Moab, and then the younger daughters, I believe, that son was named Ben Ami. So these three nations of basically stemming from Lot and Esau, these are all relatives of the covenant people of Israel. And they just all happen to be on the Transjordanian side, the eastern side of the Jordan River. And so it naturally, and they're all referred to as countries here on the eastern side versus the city-state versions that we saw in Damascus, Gaza, and Tyre. And then lastly, the two oracles against Yahweh's people or Jehovah's people. Then the covenant people is then we have Judah and Israel that it ends with. So it would nicely break down, I think, into these groupings here of what we would put at the stanzaic level, and I think this works, and so I just wanted to it just as you're working through the text, certain things just crystallize. And I do believe that this is probably the right way in which that when we look at the 8 nations, in which to how to bring some type of structure to it. And I think that we found it. So we're looking at the text. Ko Amar Adonai al Shalosha Pishet Zor v'al Arba'a Lo Ashivenu al Haskiram Galut Shalema Le Edom Velo Zacharu Berit Achim Vishalakti Esh Bechomat Zor Ve'achala Armenoteha. So this just simply says, thus says the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Tyre, and for 4, lo ashivenu, I shall not cause, its punishment to, I will not revoke its punishment, or I will not cause it, literally, I will not cause it to return. Because they delivered up a whole captivity to Edom, and they did not remember the covenant of brothers or brotherhood. And I shall send a fire on the wall of Tyre, and it shall consume her fortresses. I guess that would be the right way. So when we look at this, it begins here with Ko Amar Adonai, thus says Yehovah. You could say it that way as well. And this is just simply the messenger formula down here in our structural analysis. And I did delineate this, as throughout as a monocolon. And then we come into our series here of disticks. And when we have, this is the irrevocable indictment. And this is going to then cover, the latter half of verse 9. And these 2 disticks are going to create this strophic level, the strophe level of the indictment. and it is an irrevocable indictment for the crimes of Tyre. And then we have the basis of the indictment, or its accusation here is because why? Because they delivered up a whole captivity to Edom, so they were involved in human trafficking. And so that's the basis of the indictment, is human trafficking of human souls. And a part of this distich, and they did not remember the covenant of brotherhood. So here we would probably look like we could tie this. It's a breach of covenant that was first formed, between David and Solomon when they built the temple, and how Hiram was the king of Tyre, and they had created a covenant together, and which the nations were on a parity level, and that Hiram provided the some stonemasons and all of the cedar for the building of the temple, and then Solomon in turn gave him some cities and masses amount of wheat in the measurement of a core, and so that they entered into this covenant. And so we can see here that this would, because of this, they did not remember the covenant of brotherhood. That would then essentially point back that the crime of Tyre here was that they forgot about the covenant that they had entered into with Israel, and that now they're found to be selling Israelites to Edom, and delivering up whole communities into slavery, and so this is its crime for which the nation went, because of this one, they went over the line, and now punishment is irrevocable. It is, it's incoming. And what we see up here, up on the top of the screen, we have this is a portrait of Tyre's tribute that was given to King Shalmaneser III, and that this is a band that was literally attached to the city gate, and it portrays here the king and queen of Tyre sending forth their ships to Shalmaneser, and they're sending copper. And this is part of their tribute, but we can see that they're portrayed here as traffickers, and that they deal in merchandise, of whether it's in this case it's copper, and you'll see some others with trees, of the cedar trees. But they are known in the ancient world as the merchants of the world, and they led the shipping industry within the Mediterranean, and they were hegemonic in this activity, for many for millennia almost, you could say. But anyhow, I just wanted to show you this here, and that Yahweh's punishment then in this last distich that functions as a strophe itself, down here the judgment oracle, is that divine fire was going to be sent against the wall of Tyre, and that it would eventually consume her fortresses. And this is the oracle against the city-state of Tyre. And when we come to this slide, we can see here that from archaeological discoveries, this is Tyre that is portrayed here as the merchants of the sea, and here they're depicted as carrying, the cedars of Lebanon that they would bring with their boats and carry in the sea. And this is what they actually did for Solomon. They had cut the trees and they brought them down to their ships, and then they sailed their ships, I believe, to Joppa, and they carried all of these these great cedar trees that the temple was built with, and it just simply was being pulled behind the boat as the boat sailed down to Israel. And here is a photo taken in 1934 of the ancient city of Tyre, and you can see here that the sand spit has connected its way all the way out here to the island, and we'll see that this originally was an island itself. And then when Alexander the Great here fought against fought against Tyre for I think 7 or 8 months, he built a causeway out to almost all the way to the island itself. But through time, the sand spit has created this area here where it's connected it all, so that it's no longer an island. It's a promontory point here that sticks out into the ocean. But originally this was all an island here, and we'll discuss this. Okay, and so we come to Alexander the Great. This is somewhere around 332 BC, when he was making his way down to conquer Egypt. He fought against the city of Tyre here. That was an island, and he and his men had created this causeway that came out here, and at the end of which they put some big huge towers, which they cast these huge rocks to break down the wall here that was built on the island here. From onslaught of an enemy, and this is how he broke into the city, and it was quite a feat, because Nebuchadnezzar, centuries earlier tried to conquer Tyre, but I think he besieged it for 12 years or something, or 13 years. He couldn't do it, but Alexander did it in like, 7 or 8 months or something like that. Some incredible feat. But he had the idea of creating a causeway, and they then were able then to come out and then build these siege towers. We'll see that in our next slide. And here's just an artist's, reconstruction of the island city-state of Tyre here, off the coast here of Phoenicia. And this is what it would have originally looked like, according to this particular artist's rendition. Okay, and then coming here, then we could see then this is another artist's reconstruction of the causeway that Alexander had built, and these are his siege towers, by which then he then was able to break down the walls and conquer this island state, and then and then in time, as we saw how this was all filled in here, and the sand began to connect the island to it. But this was the definitely, Alexander the Great in 332 was credited here with, defeating Tyre, and, this would fulfill Yahweh's word, that he would send fire on the wall of Tyre, and it would consume her citadels. And this here is would be the fulfillment of that prophetic oracle. Okay, as we're moving along here, we find ourselves here looking down here at the structural analysis. We find ourselves in the second part of the oracles against the nations, and this is going to deal with the oracles against the Transjordanian nations. And this would begin with Edom and then go to the sons of Ammon and then finally to Moab. But these are the three eastern nations on the east side of the Jordan River. And so we have delineated here, this is part B, the oracles against the Transjordanian nations. And it begins here with the oracle against Edom. And as all of these, the OAN here, these oracles against the nation, they begin with the monocolon here, Ko Amar Adonai. And then as, so this basically just, thus says Yahweh or Yehovah, and which functions as a introductory speech reporting formula. And so then this is then to be, taken as the utterance of Yahweh as we move forward. So it begins here in the first distic, Al Shalosh Pishe Edom, V'al Arba'a Lo Ashivenu. And now this becomes the basis clause here with Al Rodfo. And this here is either we would call it a tricolon or a tristic, but we basically got A, B, and C here, and we have a 2-2 reading here. Since I'm doing it that way, I would just disregard the makef here, this vertical line here. I just disregard that. And so that would nicely make a 2-2-2 reading here, which says, Al Rodfo Vacherev Achiv V'Shechet Rachamav. And then we move on down here to continue. Vayitrof La'ad Apo V'Evrato Shemara Netzach. And then he ends here with the judgment oracle. Vishalakti Eish B'Teman V'Achela Armenot Bosra. So this just says, thus says the Lord, for 3 transgressions or 3 crimes of Edom, and for 4 I shall not cause it to return, or I shall not revoke its punishment, because they pursued his brother or his brethren with a sword, and he corrupted his compassion, and his anger tore continually, and his overflowing wrath, he guarded it perpetually. And I will send a fire against Haman, and it will consume the citadels or the fortresses of Bosra or Basra. And so this is and it doesn't, notice here, it doesn't end with a, with an affirmation formula like, Amar Adonai, set, basically signature, it's Yahweh's signature here that it would just underscore the, that Yahweh's just ending the oracle here. But something we've seen this before, that not all of them have that particular affirmation formula, and this one doesn't. But we can see that this breaks down here according to the outline. We have the messenger formula, thus says the Lord, that introduces the oracle. Then we have basically the 2 elements is the irrevocable indictment that comes in 2 forms. It begins with a graded numerical saying for 3 crimes of, Edom, and for 4, lo ashivenu, I shall not cause it to, be revoked. And then we have the basis of the indictment, which, forms here, it forms 2 distichs, because he pursued his brethren with the sword, and he corrupted his compassion, and his anger tore continually, and his wrath he kept it perpetually. So this Shemara here, this should have probably a mapik in here, but according to the the vocalization of the Masoretes, beginning here with the schwa, then we would understand this final hey is to be, just it's suffixed here with a third masculine singular referring back here to this rage here. And so this is how we're reading. This is how we are told to read it, and I don't have a problem with that. And then also we have the judgment itself, and that Yahweh he's sending fire against Taman, and it will eventually consume the palaces of Bozrah. So Taman and Bozrah are 2 of the principal cities of this particular country. Makes up a merism to, the parts that are descriptive of the whole, and it's nicely done here in this distich here that we've seen repeated many times. And notice here that we have this, in the very first line of the basis of the indictment. We've seen this triplet here before, as we have a tristic in the form of a tristic, and this is not the first time we've seen this in the first line. Okay, then coming here, we're looking here at the country of Edom, which has its border here at the Nachal Zered here, and this is this brook here, this little river system called Zered, and to the north, this here is Moab, and south of this river is Edom, and we have Bozrah here, somewhere about here, and then the city of Taman is somewhere down about here, and on this map it's not placed here, but this is where we're going to say Taman is about here, and so we're looking at Edom here, and it's definitely it's on the eastern side of the Jordan. Side of the Araba here, because this is the Dead Sea. The Jordan River would be north, and so this is, you need to be able to conceptualize, as you're reading through the Old Testament, you need to be very well informed of where all of these countries are at, and that these are all just countries surrounding Israel and Judah, whether they be to the northeast and or to the west, definitely, as in the case here of the Philistines. And this is just another map for you to see, the nations here that we're talking about. And below Moab here, this is the brook Zered here. So Edom would be south here. South and east from here, just directly below Moab. So just so that you can get an idea of where this is on a map. Okay, then coming back to our text here, looking at the at the indictment, the basis of the indictment, and we'll come back and revisit this tristic here, because he pursued his brethren with the sword, and corrupted his compassion. So here we would identify the brethren here with Israel and with Judah, because we remember here that Edom, right, is the name of the country that represents Esau, all right, and he was the elder brother of Jacob, all right. And remember that, if Isaac had his way, Esau would have received the blessing, and because of Rebekah, she, without her intervention, Esau would have got the blessing, but ultimately, somehow in there, God would have even intervened after that. Somehow, because God had wanted the blessing to go to Jacob. But just looking at the text from a human point of view, Isaac was fully intent on giving it to Esau. So this is literally, this is Edom and Israel and Judah. They're these are brothers here, and so in the very literal sense. And it says that because he pursued his brethren with the sword, and he corrupted his compassion. So this here shows us that if you endeavor in hatred and unforgiveness and with murder in your heart, you are not going to be a very good person. You're going to corrupt your compassion. And it says here again, adding to this, and his anger pursued continually, and his rage, he kept it perpetually. And then the judgment is, I will send fire upon Teman, and it will consume the fortresses of Basra. And so the fulfillment of this particular judgment of Yahweh would probably, it comes down to, during, after the Babylonian captivity of Israel, of Judah, then from there into the Persian period, the Edomites are pretty much wiped out and subjugated, by Babylon, and by the during the intertestamental period, the Nebaeans had wiped them out completely, so you really couldn't take them beyond the Nebaeans, and that would go for all the Transjordanian countries here, whether it be the Edomites, the Moabites, or the Ammonites. Okay, then moving right along here, we're coming then to the Pishei B'nai Ammon here, which is the crimes of the sons of Ammon, and it begins here with this with this monocolon here, Ko Amar Adonai, Al Shalosha Pishei B'nai Ammon, Va'al Arba'a Lo Ashivenu, Al Bik'am Harot Hagilad Lima'an Harchiv et Gevulam, V'hitzati Eish B'chomat Rabba, V'achela Armenoteha, Bitru'a B'yom Milhama, B'sa'ar B'yom Sufa, V'halak Malkam Bagola, Hu V'sarav Yakdav Amar Adonai. And so it ends here with this particular divine attestation formula, which is included here in the oracle. So we can see here that this begins and ends with monocolons, and it's kind of, it's an inclusio, functions, it's an envelope structure that, the message is in between here. It's put into the envelope structure. And so, we're here, on the oracles against the Transjordanian countries. And we're looking here at the oracle against the the sons of Ammon here. And as it typically begins here with these graded numerical sayings here, al shalosh pishe v'nei Ammon al arba lo ashivenu. So this is the irrevocable indictment or accusation here that's irrevocable, according to Yahweh. They've stepped over the line. And we can see why here. We have this this particular distic that's pretty fairly long here. Al bikam harot ha-gilad, because they ripped open the pregnant women of Gilead so as to enlarge their border. So just like the doctrine of the Nazis of Laban's realm, to increase their living spaces. Wow, this is quite a heinous crime here. That Yahweh accuses the people of the sons of Ammon, and so definitely. The punishment is definitely incoming. So here, he said. Usually, he says, "Shalakti, I will send a fire." But here, he uses the word kindle. I will kindle a fire, cause a fire to be kindled. In the wall of Rabbah. And it will consume her palaces. So Yahweh's getting, it's variation within the stamped terminology of sending a fire or here kindling a fire. A little variation, but it's a little more now. Yahweh's just not sending it; he's actually kindling it, and so it shows a little more activity of Yahweh here because of the heinousness of this crime. And then we have a series here of these prepositional phrases, with a shout on the day of war, and in a tempest, or with a tempest on the day of we can say a windstorm or a whirlwind here. And then it says, and their king will go into captivity, he and his princes yakdav together. And then it ends with the divine attestation formula. And like with the sons of Ammon, this particular country here, they were all somewhat, first they were giving a tribute, to Tiglath-Pileser III, but when we come to the Babylonian, kingdom, a little bit, a century, another 2 centuries later here, after the captivity of Jerusalem, 586, 587, then Babylon pretty much has taken control of all of these Transjordanian nations here and effectively have wiped them out. And so we could understand the judgment oracle, and the exile of the king and the princes all taking place at that time. But they were accused of a very heinous crime of they wanted to enlarge their border, and so they would rip open, pregnant women of Gilead. These are international crimes for which God, is going to punish a nation for its crimes. So, all countries are long overdue, and ours is not far from it. Okay, then continuing on here, we're looking here at the crimes of Moab. And we're beginning here, as we typically do, with this monocolon ko amaronai. Al shalosh pishe Moab, va'al arba'a lo ashivenu. Al sorfo atzmot melech Edom lasid. Bishalakti esh b'Moab, ve'achala armenot hakiriot. Umate bishaon Moab, bitru'ah bikol shofar. Vehikrati shofet mikirba, vikol sareha eherog imo amar Adonai. So this just says, thus says the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Moab, and for 4 I shall not revoke it, because he burnt the bones, and then we'll say this is in a case of enjambment, because he burnt the bones of the king of Moab to lime. Okay, and that's the reason why he's doing it, because he burnt the bones of the king of Moab to lime. And remember, lime was used for plastering. So basically, he's using the king of Moab for plaster, to whitewash something with. And so God doesn't look too favorably upon desecrating people's bodies. And I will send a fire against Moab, and it will consume the fortresses of Kiriot. And Moab shall die in a crash with the shout of the sound of the shofar, and I'll cut off the judge from her midst, and all her princes I will kill with him, says Yahweh, or Yehovah. And so you can see here that it begins with the monocolon, it ends with the monocolon. It's this envelope structure, or this inclusio here, and the messages in between. And this is the oracle against Ammon. So it begins with the messenger formula. It ends with the divine attestation formula here in 4, Amar Adonai. And then basically the essential message is the irrevocable indictment that begins here with the graded numerical sayings for 3 and for 4. And then the basis of the indictment, which is crimes against humanity, he's burning the bones of the king of Edom to lime. And then there's the judgment oracle that follows here in 2 to 3. And so this comes in the form of 3 diastichs here. Sending forth the fire with the conflagration of the defenses, and the manner is with a battle shout and with the tempest of the whirlwind, and the death of the judges and princes, and so this is how this all comes to pass. And we can see that this all just all these Transjordanian nations basically come to an end. They all get hit by Tiglath-Pileser III, and probably Sennacherib following up, and Esarhaddon and Ashurbanipal. That's all the Assyrians rulers that followed. And then you get Nebuchadnezzar coming to power. He pretty much puts an end of all this, and then you go into the Persian era, and then the Beotins. There wouldn't be anything left after them. So, but pretty much they're pretty much after the Babylonian captivity. Moab here is c'est la vie. Okay, this has been another session of Biblical Theology, Exegesis, and Hermeneutics, where meaning is always context-driven. Please like, share, copy, and subscribe.